Welcome, everybody, to a new fantasy story of mine. Here is a tale I am here to share. Now it will begin. The rain fell softly. Miss Willow walked along the stream, the water gently pooling with raindrops as her reflection was consistently interrupted. As she walked by, her feet sinking into the wet mossy ground ever so little, the small clovers growing around her feet bounced with rain as they stretched happily up towards the sky, loving the refreshment of the weather. It wasn't cold, but it was cool, and Willow loved the feeling of the fresh coolness of the breeze as the forest opened up like a released butterfly from a cocoon. The rain felt to her as though it cleansed the world it touched, setting all the air free from negativity. She walked along peacefully. The clouds kept a soft shade of the sun from peeking in, and it was the perfect brightness to relax the eyes for her. The grass was wet and alive on the trail as the small rocks next to the river and streams were shiny. She came upon a small bridge leading to another part of the scenery. She stepped across it and watched a frog hop by beside her. It leapt into the water beside her and made a splash. She watched carefully as it swam away under some lily pads. The other water plants were twirly and curled under the water. She stood back up and continued her journey. The tree leaves above her were small and dancing happily in the wind. As she walked ahead of her, she exited the forest just to the spilling out of fields. She loved the open air, and she ran into the field, smiling brightly. Eventually she ran and ran until she met the other side of the large field of flowers and grasses. She stopped to catch her breath, and as she looked over straight ahead, she saw a small traveling cart and a pink figure moving around beside it. She walked over, and the image became more clear. There was a clean traveling stand with some small shelves of different plants growing, some bonsai trees, some tiny colorful flowers, and some exotic-looking vine-shaped roots that appeared to be from fabled lands far away. She gazed at them from a short distance in awe until a voice called to her. "Oh, dearie, would you come out of the rain? You look so lost." Willow jumped and looked over to see that the pink figure, or dragon, was offering her to come visit whatever she was looking at. Willow walked over and replied to the dragon, Oh no, I'm not lost. I'm just enjoying the cool air." Are these your plants? They are extremely beautiful," she said. This was a very different dragon than she was used to meeting. She stood mainly on two legs, wore a more fancy outfit, and spoke politely to her, not the kind of cave-dwelling dragons she's seen before. The dragon walked over and smiled. "Oh, my apologies, miss. These sure are my lovely plants. I'm glad you think they're nice, but you may not seem too lost, but I sadly think I am. Name's Daisy. Fitting," she said, and she gave a toothy smile. She rustled in her shelves of plants and pulled out a daisy plant growing. It had a large flower and seemed very happy. Daisy spoke more. "This here is the reason I'm lost, but also the reason I'm so lucky. See, back where I come from, many dragons weren't the happiest of creatures. I could never find any flowers around, no decorations, nothing. I was much younger then, but what I did bring, I brought people together, so I never forget where it came from. I was the only dragon in my village to gift happy little flowers to those around me who needed a smile. Eventually, growing plants was my best quality, and ever since, more and more folks come to me to find their little plant friends." She got closer and whispered, as though she wanted to tell was a very kept mystery. "Ever notice how much color is seen around those parts of town? Well, you can thank me. I care for some which have been given to me, some from scratch, and some are orders for those who are expecting something specific to match their designated gardens. I've helped grow gardens of oranges, purples, pinks, reds, and much more. It's a very important thing, I believe, to see the beauty in the nature all around." She suddenly stopped and bent down really quick to the ground and started observing something small. Willow was confused, but she got closer too, and she saw it. Daisy spotted a tiny flower that caught her attention, and she spoke. "Wow! Would you look at that? One of the more rare varieties to find in these regions." Willow was surprised at how much Daisy knew about plants. Willow replied, "Gosh, Daisy, you must know a ton about these. That's so neat. You're lost, you said? Maybe I can help you point in the right direction," Willow offered to her. Daisy stood back up. "Well, I have all these plants and flowers set up for an order to..." She pulled out a small, wrinkly piece of paper. It got soaked by the rain, and she turned it, trying to read it. The water had smeared some of the letters. Willow approached. "Oh, August King?" it said. But the 2 last letters in the name were smudged. Daisy spoke. "Before it got so rainy, I could have sworn it said something about Augustine. I don't know an Augustine." Willow lit up with a smile. "Oh, maybe you don't know an Augustine. Good thing is, I do, and one that's a king as well." Willow winked, proud that she knew something so perfectly timed that she could help out. Daisy opened her jaws and put the paper back in her pocket. "Great! But which way is the king? He ordered some of these flowers, but I wonder why a king of all would want something so small like this." Willow replied, "You honestly never know why he wants anything. He's a very particular dragon. Fire isn't warm enough in the castle. Boy, he needs everything just perfect." Daisy looked at her flowers, slightly self-conscious. You think mine are right for him, though? I wouldn't want to upset the king," she said, worried. Willow replied, "Oh, I'm sure of it, but you don't need to worry about that. Sure, he's very particular about his belongings and housekeeping. Castle-keeping. But he's a very kind king, as long as I've known him. Almost anybody who meets him is surprised by how little they expected his friendliness. Unless they're from a threatening kingdom, of course. I'm Willow, by the way. The princess, believe it or not. Many call me that, or considered me that, of the kingdom. I'd gladly take you there. We aren't actually that far away," she said. Daisy widened her eyes, shocked. "Oh my goodness! You're the Princess Willow? I've heard of your kindness and adventures. I am so thrilled to have met you. Here, miss, please, feel free to find a flower you like, free of cost. I can't believe I'm actually talking to you." She opened up another shelf of smaller flowers and plants. Willow leaned in and inspected them. She came across one. It was an acorn sprouting. "I love this one. Trees are my favorites." Daisy handed it to her, and Willow put it carefully in her bag. She then quickly pulled out a small gem and put it in the small jar Daisy had for payments. She couldn't just accept a free gift without giving a smile in return. As Daisy packed up her traveling flower shop, it folded into the very neat rolling cart. Daisy looked at her. "Well, we going to see the king or what?" she said very enthusiastically. Willow smiled and pointed towards the town. The end of part 1.